Hey, welcome to my podcast. This is Somebody's Wife, Somebody's Mum with Anastasia Jade. If you don't know me already, my name is Anastasia Jade. I am a 26-year-old wife and mother. My journey to marriage and motherhood has been quite fast, to be honest. I met my husband when I was 22. I got engaged by 24, got married just before I turned 25, and then gave birth at 26. So basically, my husband has been my whole 20s. I wanted to start this podcast because I wanted to talk about the things I wish somebody told me in preparation for marriage and in preparation for motherhood. This podcast is to delve into the things that maybe people don't talk about so much. This podcast is going to be about wifehood, motherhood, and all the things that affect me as a woman in today's world. So something that's really on my heart to speak about is the shock to your system of motherhood. I don't know if anyone else would describe it that way, but there was no amount of advice that could have prepared me for what I experienced in my first at least 2 weeks of motherhood. But I think if I maybe had something like what I intend to put out through these episodes, it would have helped me to have something to go back to in those moments. I mean, most things in life you can't really learn until you experience them. But at least if you've had conversations and learned something from somewhere, then you always have something to refer back to. And I hope that this podcast can be that for someone. And I want to briefly touch on this idea that motherhood just swept me off my feet. It's crazy because you have 9-10 months to prepare, but nothing about your pregnancy prepares you for motherhood. And I'll be honest, my husband and I did not plan this pregnancy. So I want to paint a picture for you here. We are a newlywed couple. We are 4 months into marriage. And we're planning for our 1-year anniversary. We're going to go to Dubai. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We really like where we live right now. We think we can stay here for maybe another year. And then month 5 hits of marriage. And my period has not arrived. So obviously my husband says you should take a test. I do the pregnancy test. Lo and behold, it's positive. I do another test. It's positive. We buy another one. It's positive. So I am positively pregnant 5 months into marriage. And I was adamant that I wanted to wait a year just because I really wanted to just enjoy our alone time and to, build whatever. So our pregnancy was unplanned. So my mindset isn't I'm preparing to be a mother. My mindset is I'm enjoying being a wife right now. I feel as though motherhood has given me a purpose beyond anything I could ever have imagined in my life. And it's crazy how lots of mums, including myself at the very beginning, feel almost a sense of loss when they give birth, because all of a sudden your life just becomes baby, 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 baby. You wake up to feed, clothe, change your baby and hold your baby, and there's months on end where your baby is just reliant on you for everything because they can't do anything. And so you feel as though you've lost yourself because you are now in this mode of inadvertent sacrifice that is almost enforced on you, because if you don't do it, your baby will, probably not survive if they're not being fed, if they're not being changed, if they're not being dressed, if they're not being carried, if they're not being held, if they're not being nurtured, if they're not given attention. These are things that babies need 24/7. And so you go from wifehood, let's say, where you have time to yourself, or you're just able to spend time together. Then you go through pregnancy where you're still able to have alone time and do your own thing, but you've got this weight on you that you're about to birth life into the world. And although you are yourself and able to do mostly what you were able to do before, there's this responsibility to still look after this life that's in you, but it's not so drastic as when you give birth and you're carrying this life in your hands and you just think, Lord, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? How do I make sure I don't mess up this person's life? How am I going to make sure that I raise this baby to be your servant? How am I going to make sure that this baby has everything they need? And it's such a transformation mentally, physically, spiritually. It is such a transformation to go from being single, a wife, to then a mother. And I don't think there's any amount of preparation that can prepare you for motherhood. The theory is so different to the reality. It's not like revising for an exam. And every baby is different. So the first at least 2 months, you are just learning who this baby is. What do they like? What do they need? Who are they? And then the crazy thing is, it can change. One of my biggest learnings from becoming a mother is that everything happens in stages or phases. Every period, every phase has an end. I will give an example of how I've just come out of the phase where my daughter was sleeping beautifully. For 2 months, I was able to put her down when she was tired. She will put herself to sleep and she'll sleep for about 2 hours. Now, she cannot. She can sleep by herself, which is great. But when she was even first born, she could not sleep by herself, could not put her down. And I remember relatives were calling, FaceTiming, and I'd say, oh, she's asleep. And they'd say, okay, put her down then. And we'd be like, she's gonna cry. She's going to cry the house down. We just got her to sleep and we are happy to hold her for as long as we need to. And that phase felt like it was never going to end. I remember Googling resolutions. Is that the right word? Probably not. Solutions. I remember Googling solutions at like 3 a.m. How do I put my baby down? Or baby keeps crying when I put them down. And there are so many factors, which I'll probably go into at some point. But the main thing is that for the first few months of your baby's life, they are struggling to transition from being in the womb where it's warm, where it's safe, where they have everything they need. They never have to ask for food. They never have to quench their thirst. They are safe. They have everything they need in the womb. And then they come out into this world where they're not in that cozy atmosphere anymore. And they have to transition from being in the perfect temperature all the time to the cold, to the warm, to the hot, to the freezing. And they can't communicate in any other way than to cry. And so for us as the mother, and I'm speaking mainly for mothers here because that's what I can relate to as a mother, as a woman, we're just hearing crying and yelling and we're thinking, oh my gosh, what is going on? That baby is just trying to communicate, and for some reason, crying is the only way they know how. And so I've even had to repent where I have been impatient with my daughter mentally, where I've thought, oh my gosh, why won't she sleep? Why won't she calm down? Why won't she relax? And my repenting prayer was, Lord, forgive me, for nothing about how she's behaving is her fault. She's new to this. We're both new to this. And this is just a phase. So she's getting way more aware of everything, of people. She's aware of when you leave the room now. She's aware of when you call her. Whereas before, she just was aware of whoever was holding her, and that was that. And when babies are younger, in that phase of first 2 weeks probably, their eyes are like always closed. They wake up, you change them, you feed them, they go back to sleep. When they get older, and I'll talk about this 6 months phase now, they'll stay awake for longer. They'll have more needs. And that need can even be attention. My daughter definitely coughs for attention. I'm sure some mums know what I'm talking about. But there's phases in your child's life, and there's phases in your life. And every phase has an end, just like every phase has a start. And just like in normal life, just because you've gone through a good phase, unfortunately, doesn't mean it will follow a good phase. To go back to that example, when my daughter was able to put herself to sleep, that was great. Now she can't put herself to sleep, and that has put a greater strain on me. But guess what? It's my job. It's my job to give my daughter everything she needs in my human strength. It's my husband's job to give her everything she needs in his human strength. As parents, as mothers, this is our job. Our job is to look after the life we just gave birth to. Where else do you want them to look for everything that they need? You have been their source for the past 9-10 months. Now you're about to be their source for at least 18 more years. Who else should they look to? Who else can they look to if not you? For the things on this earth, they have their Father in heaven who will give them abundant riches beyond what we have capacity for. But we are here on this earth as their physical parents, their physical mothers, their physical nurturers and providers. And so with every phase, I'm learning to remind myself that I'm made for this, I'm designed for this. I say this to say that if you feel like you are incapable of doing something, just know that you are designed for your life. This is something that my pastor preached one sermon maybe like 2 years ago, and it stuck with me because it's facts. You are designed for your life. As a woman, there are things that you are designed for. The truth of the matter is, in terms of childbirth, a lot of experts will tell you that if you choose to do nothing, if you choose not to research anything, if you choose not to do any of the preparations, your body will know what to do to give birth. It might be harder, it might take longer, but your body knows a child needs to come out, just like your body knows how you need to poo and how you need to pee, how you need to sneeze. You don't make these things happen. Your body knows because God created you that way. And so when I go through these phases in motherhood, I remind myself, and this is something I've started very recently, I remind myself I'm created for this. I was created to be the mother to this child. I was created to be a mother, to be a wife, a homemaker, a nurturer. And so, Lord, when I feel incapable, when I feel overwhelmed, remind me, Lord, that I was designed for this. Help me, Lord, to utilize what you've put within me to do this job, because you made me for this. You made me for this. You were designed for your life. In every phase you go through as a single person, as a wife, as a mum, you were made for this. You were designed for your life. Whatever it is you feel called to do, you were made to do it because he called you to do it. But sometimes it requires you to ask for wisdom and to ask for instruction to equip you to do what he's called you to do. Motherhood is in phases. Childhood is in phases. And it's hard because when you're a first-time parent anyway, you're new to all of it. Just as your baby is new to things, you are new to it too. But there's something that someone said to me, you're both growing together. Because I remember sharing with her my worry that the next phase, when my daughter starts crawling and running and walking and talking, am I ready for that? She said to me, you'll grow too. You as the parent will grow in the phases with your child. You will grow together because you're in this together. You just need to be present and you need to be observant. I wish someone had told me that I should do nothing in my first 2 weeks or month or so of motherhood but observe my child. I wish someone told me that if I just watch her and understand her, that I will learn to trust the instincts that God has put within me instead of trusting a tracker app or trusting something else when I'm already made for this. I was using the baby tracker app religiously for maybe the first 3 months of my daughter's life. Every feed, every change, every nap, I was timing, I was logging, I was tracking until one day, it was a combination of things. I delayed feeding her because I couldn't get the app up, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, did I feed with my left or right boob last? Because it matters, otherwise one will become more engorged. And we left her with my husband's auntie for some time, and obviously I wouldn't have known when she ate and when she didn't eat, so I wasn't able to track it. And the timer said something like last slept 8 hours ago, which isn't true. And I just thought, this is not even accurate anymore. I need to stop, because I'm also getting obsessed with it, and I'm not being present because I'm focusing on this thing and I'm relying on this thing to help me to parent. So I ditched the app. I actually haven't deleted it yet. I should probably do that, but I haven't touched it since December, since my daughter was about 3 months old. And I would recommend the app for new parents if they wanted to, I guess, have a temporal way of managing things, in the sense of they wanted to know times, how long feeds were, and all of that stuff. But you can also always check the clock, check the time, and find other ways to track, because it does get obsessive. And when we use things like these apps, we no longer rely on the way that God has made us to function. And let me not lie to you, it's still not easy, but it's doable. And just because something is hard or demanding doesn't mean it's not doable. I don't know anyone who will tell you that motherhood is easy. I was speaking to a friend from church who has a 17-year-old. She said it's still not easy. I'm sure my mum will tell me now that it's not easy. And both of her children, in fact, she has one in her late 20s and one in his early 30s. And I'm sure it's not easy for her still. But this is it. This is a job now. You are mother. You are mum. Rise up to the occasion in knowing that this is what you were made for. So I'm going to round up here, because I feel as though I will go on 100 different tangents. And I really just wanted this to be a quick taster into what I'm going to talk about and into the tone of this podcast. I hope you were blessed. I hope you learned something. And I hope you're excited, as I am, for future episodes. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye bye for now.